The Good Shepherd, fourth in the Angel of Death series, now available at StevieJoAuthor.com.
Hi everybody, I'm your host Stevie Jo, and welcome to the Composition of Imagination. It's the show where we just talk about how the books in the Angel of Death series got made, kind of what's going on with the backstory, and the fun ways that we get these books into your hands. And of course, I am joined by my fabulous book guardians for another awesome discussion, Tasha and Jason. And last week, we talked about, we did a part 1 of the Angels in Heaven, talking about the shepherds and defenders, just touching on their role and how important they are to help keep heaven functioning.
Oh, it was a good.
And yeah, if you haven't watched it, seriously, go watch it. It is a very good video. Very good discussion. And we also talked about Hope and Jackson, and that's what really made it a good discussion, because we're talking about, you know, their dynamic as a couple, and what do we think will happen to Hope and Jackson in the end of all of this with this whole series. So go watch that. This is part 2, and we're going to be talking today about the 3 angels of wisdom, as well as our Pied Piper, Samuel. So I'm gonna dive right in. I'll give you a really quick backstory, just overview on the Angels of Wisdom, some notes that are important for the questions I'm gonna ask these guys, because we're gonna do some more speculative discussion. So the first thing, starting with the Angels of Wisdom, the most important thing to know is they are the keepers of life, knowledge, and death. And I need to stress that they are the keepers of it, because that doesn't mean that Theo, the keeper of life, has the power to give you life. He can't. I mean, all heavenly angels have the ability to heal, but he can't just be like, oh, this person is dead, I'm going to bring them back to life. That's not how that works. He is the keeper of it and basically protects life. And helps promote it if a mortal soul dies and comes to heaven and is like, you know, I don't want to be an angel for whatever reason, and they'll eat the fig and they get to go back to earth and start over in a new life where they don't even remember their past life. So you start from infancy and you're born and you live and you die, that whole cycle all over again. Carmen is the keeper of knowledge. So if you eat the pomegranate from her tree, then you get to become an angel, and you learn the magic that it takes to be an angel, depending on what your divine purpose is how much magic and the kind of magic you'll learn and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, Patrice is our keeper of death, and this is a really important distinction as well. She is not
the Grim
death.
Reaper.
She is not the Grim Reaper. She does not look into a crystal ball and go, that person's ready to die, I'm going to go get them. That's not how that works, because much like Theo with his protection of life, that's what she's in charge of, is that she just kind of makes sure that if a mortal soul comes up to heaven and has fulfilled its divine purpose according to fate, they have the option to just rest. They don't have to go back on earth and live a new life. They don't have to be an angel. They can just go to the eternal pool and live out their, you guessed it, eternity, and just be. They can't leave the eternal pool, but that's sometimes when I think of the eternal pool, the best way I can think of it is, remember in the animated Hercules, whenever he went down to Hades and all the souls were in the...
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what the eternal pool is, but less scary. It has nothing to do with, like, hell and Hades. It's literally just a bunch of angelic souls chilling with magic.
You can bet that hell's probably got their version of it.
That's the hollow.
Yeah.
That is what the hollow is. So, yeah, that's basically what it's like. The other thing is, do they have the knowledge to impart on souls, other angels, mortals, and all that? Absolutely they do. Think of it like on-the-job training. You may not know exactly how to perform every single job at your company, but damn it, if you've been there long enough, you probably know about it, and you know the general process. So that's kind of what's happened with the Angels of Wisdom. That's why at this stage, when we're introduced to them, they are very, like, Carmen knows everything because she's been around long enough that the knowledge has just been imparted onto her by nature of her own job. So Theo knows exactly how life will be impacted by the nature of his own job and what he has seen. So that's kind of how those angels function. The angels of wisdom, they are bonded with their holy trees. So that's a really important thing to note. I talk a lot about angels being bonded in these books, and it's super important because they can bond with mortals, they can bond with other angels, and in the angels of wisdom case, they bond with their holy trees, because it's something to bond with someone or something is to basically link yourselves together for all eternity. If you're a Rick and Morty fan and you've seen the Slut Dragon episode, you knew exactly where I was going with this. If you've seen the Slut Dragon episode and you've where Rick and the dragon bond, and whatever's happening to the dragon happens to Rick, like he feels it, that's how it is with the angels in their trees. That's the best way to describe that. So the angels of wisdom, because the holy trees are meant to be eternal, and they were actually created by time and fate, not any other force. They are meant to be eternal, and so the angels that are bonded with them are meant to last for eternity, unless fate is like, I've had enough of you, and sends them packing. So anything that happens to the tree will impact the angel. That's a really important thing to note. So I'm just going to start diving into questions about angels to get the discussion rolling. So first of all, let's just learn what your first impressions are of each angel of wisdom. What do you think of Carmen and Patrice and Theo as individuals? Or even, I guess, as their collective angel of wisdom-ness?
I mean, you kind of get Carmen's attitude, because people that have a lot of knowledge tend to act more arrogantly.
Yeah.
As I like to.
There's that arrogance again.
Hey, you got a lot of people that sit there, they
that's how he described angels up in heaven.
That's our buzzword for these angels in heaven.
They're not your typical angels. They're extremely confident. Okay, we'll just go with that. They're extremely confident. They're so extremely confident that when they walk in, everybody walks out.
Oh my God.
Because the
Take
ego,
a shot every time.
The ego right here.
Yeah. Which Carmen, I will give you that. Carmen does have a bit of an ego because, like you said, she likes to think she has all the knowledge. So when she doesn't have knowledge on something,
she loses her mind.
It's kind of a...
And Theo, he's like the go-between.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You got the one extreme with Carmen, and then Patrice is on the other, which it's kind of sad for her because she takes her job seriously.
Yep.
And it's not a popular job, and she didn't ask for it, but she didn't ask for the abuse she gets from Carmen because, Carmen doesn't care.
And she doesn't understand.
And again, she could learn, but she wants to learn on her terms, and that's not going to happen. Yes. So, I do kind of want to see a little bit of a showdown. Would the Angel of Knowledge really stack up against the Angel of Death if they went head to head?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, because Patrice sits there and says, look, you think I'm weak, but I'm stronger than you realize. Does that mean that she has dark aspects of her power?
I don't know, yeah.
I mean, she doesn't come across as like she's got like this dark side or anything.
Right.
But your death.
Yeah.
Even the dark angels in hell know who she is.
Yeah.
So, and respect her too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's an interesting dynamic. And that's the funniest thing about it is Carmen runs around thinking she runs the roost when there's a lot of stuff that's out of her control and there's nothing she can do about it.
And you will notice that every time I talk about the three of them being in one place, Carmen is always in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
As if she is the queen of the castle.
I'm interested to see how all three of them play out.
Yeah.
Really.
Their like whole dynamic.
Yeah, their whole dynamic and everything with Carmen with the knowledge, but she doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Like she does, but she doesn't.
Right.
So I'm really curious how when she figures that out, how she's going to be.
Yeah.
And put in perspective how she would treat Patrice.
Yeah.
That she doesn't treat her all. She's very dismissive to her.
Yeah, very much so.
And I mean, Theo's just Switzerland. I mean, he's just there. I mean, am I wrong?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Actually, he tries to find ways to make it, better for both parties.
But when you have such a headstrong party here and someone who's like, why are you treating me this way?
Yeah.
He's kind of like, I just can't.
But at the same time, you notice that Patrice, does have that attitude of, what am I doing wrong? Oh, yeah, I forgot I exist. But toward the end, you start seeing it going, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm going to take your big bitch ass down, and you ain't going to like it.
Yeah.
And another thing that is interesting is that the fact that she really doesn't believe that Carmen doesn't believe that she could be taken down.
Oh, no, she doesn't, because she's knowledge. She has all of this information in her head about existence literally from the dawn of time.
And so she's basically sitting on a lot of archaic knowledge.
Yes.
I mean, it's like understanding Sanskrit.
And that's really, really important for future books past the fourth one. Where with this, along the lines of Carmen and Patrice, talking about them, it is said in the books that Carmen, like we said, hates Patrice. Part of the reason, and it is stated in here, is because Carmen believes that Patrice screwed with a good thing, basically. It was just Carmen and Theo forever, and then the first wielder of fate introduced death, and boom, there was Patrice. And Carmen's like, hey, fuck this. Like, why did this have to happen? So my question is, like, really, Carmen resents Patrice for that intrusion, as she views it. So the question is, do you think that the whole disruption to Carmen's original life is really the reason why Carmen hates Patrice, or do you think there's something deeper going on there that we haven't seen yet?
I think it's partly because of that, but I think it's also she doesn't know, and her job is to know, and she doesn't.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with it and everything.
She nailed it right on the head. And there's another aspect of this that I think is kind of funny is, does she know a lot about what is starting to transpire on Earth?
Does Carmen know?
Yeah.
Probably not, because without a wielder of fate, they're all blind. They're just kind of, they're walking in the dark.
But the thing, I know, I'm trying to think, I think it was in book 2, they were mentioning that they sensed.
The balance of power was starting to tip, and they can feel it. They can feel it. But she doesn't, but they have no way of knowing right now what's causing it. Just like we don't really know fully what's causing it. So.
Yeah, when that cat comes out of the bag, all bets are off.
So, stirring the pot a little bit more.
Oh, Lord, here we go.
Do you think that there's more to Carmen and Theo's relationship than they're letting on? Is that maybe why Carmen is also so like, fuck you, Patrice, you cock-blocked me, almost?
No, because it doesn't seem like, but as angels being angels, we're not really sure, aside from the only other relationship we see in heaven is Hope and Jackson.
Yeah.
which is more like a human relationship more than an angelic relationship.
Yeah.
What you might be seeing with Carmen and Theo could be an angelic form of a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, but at times it almost doesn't even seem like that. It really kind of fluctuates.
Okay.
It's a fluid situation. One minute, Theo seems to act like, an old husband, and then other times, Carmen seems to act like an older sister.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a weird dynamic going on.
Do you think that, piggybacking off of that, like, spontaneous question, do you think that that's because when they were created, they had no reference point of what love is, what a relationship is, so that might have to do with their
now, there might be, in Carmen's
relationship.
case, there could be some, underlying jealousy of Patrice because, again, younger model.
But if Carmen's a knowledge, wouldn't she know what love is and a relationship and all
Not
that?
at first.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Because when they were first created, there was no Earth, there was no humans or mortals or anything on Earth, so they didn't have a good reference point. Because they were
sooner
created.
Or later, she would though.
Yes.
So I feel like.
But then it's like, is that too late? Does she have those actual feelings, and how does she impart that on Theo?
The fate may not have revealed what love is or a relationship is until several, maybe a couple of eons in.
Yeah.
After they were created, and by that point, well, Carmen's kind of stuck in her ways. She's she knows knowledge. Theo's, knows what he knows.
Yeah.
But they're kind of entrenched into who they are. So for them to understand that knowledge is probably maybe still beyond them.
Yeah. So as you may recall, because we have talked about it numerous times, death was introduced to the realms by the very first wielder of fate. How? We don't know yet. That will be coming in a while in a little novella trilogy that I'll be writing. So that's going to be a little bit down the road. But from there, when death was created, Patrice was summoned to become an angel of wisdom. And by summoned, we mean like created. She was not a mortal soul who had died. She was formed specifically for this role. And it is a role that she will have until the end of time or until fate declares her divine purpose complete, whichever one comes first. So what do you think the first wielder of fate did to bring death into the realms for the first time?
I want to say it happened sometime after the split from heaven and the creation of hell and Lucian going.
Okay.
And maybe as a parting shot, Lucian unleashed something on to the angels. And in order for it to be stopped, the wielder of fate had to take a drastic step and create death in order to stop it.
Okay.
It's a little extreme, but it's like trying to fight an epidemic.
Yeah.
You're sitting there, you're treating it as best you can and stuff, but at some point you got to find a way to stop it. And some people, they'll use medicine, but in some cultures, they'll just kill them.
Yeah. Okay.
I know it sounds terrible, but it's a possibility, and you have to look at it from heaven's point of view.
So do you think, still kind of focusing on the Patrice-Carmen dynamic, do you think Patrice has yet to atone for whatever that event was in Carmen's eyes? Like that perspective?
No.
Or do you think that whatever happened to bring Patrice in is irrelevant to Carmen at this point?
It's irrelevant.
You think so?
Yeah. It doesn't. It could have been the greatest thing that basically saved her tail and everyone else. It doesn't matter. It was somebody new got put on the scene that was not here when I first came here.
So it's the Star Wars special of Family Guy where the other girl comes in and Lois is like, I don't like her.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're thinking it is. So if the angels of wisdom are merely keepers, as I've said, of their respective, we'll call them traits, the life, knowledge, and death, we'll just say traits. If they're merely keepers of their respective traits, why does Carmen seem to take her role so seriously? I mean, she prides herself in being almost all-knowing, but the knowledge that she has is not really her own. It's fate's knowledge that has been bestowed upon her. So why do you think she takes her role so seriously?
Vanity.
I was thinking either that or it's she's been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
That she feels like she owns it.
Yeah. That's valid.
That it's like it's sort of like the tenured professor that's been there for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know.
He doesn't know anything new.
Well, yeah, he's been.
But damn it, he knows this.
Yeah.
Yeah, he keeps putting out the same book every year, and it's like, okay, in that 40 years, this is what's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you understand that? And they look at you, and it's like, I know everything. That's why I've been here for so long. And it's like, dude, you need to step away from the campus because your knowledge is not true knowledge.
Yeah. I can see that.
Your knowledge is 1950 knowledge.
Yeah.
This is 2022 knowledge.
Yeah.
I like that. That's very good.
I can definitely see that.
I'm not knocking it. Lord.
So, do some of Carmen's characteristics seem to resemble a certain wielder of fate hopeful? And do you think that that's why Carmen is so skeptical that Hope can achieve her leap of faith and bond with the hand? Do you think she sees too much of herself in Hope and something about that doesn't quite gel?
I think yes and no.
You bring up a good point because I never really Carmen never struck me as the I'll sacrifice everybody in the room to get the power. Now, but we're also seeing Carmen down the road.
Yeah.
We're not seeing what she was when she originally manifested. So it's quite possible that maybe she sees a lot of herself.
Younger self, so to speak.
But her current self doesn't come across as on the same level as what Hope is doing right now.
Okay.
So I mean, you definitely could see aspects, especially if Hope were able to bond with the hand and stayed in that role for, a couple of eons. Yeah, they'd be mirror images of each other. But right now, not so much.
Okay.
Yeah, I think maybe if anything, she might see her younger self in her, but not.
And
not
again,
who
we have
she
never
is now.
seen. I was going to say we haven't seen yet what she might have been.
You will. Balance of Power trilogy novellas. They will be coming out in a few years. That is something to look forward to.
I can already see the comments. Few years.
Yes, few years. And the reason why, I will tell you, because that's where you're going to find out exactly what makes these angels of wisdom tick and how heaven was created. What happened?
Why are we going to wait that long then?
Because
why can't it come out next week?
It has to come out at a very strategic time in the main series, or else it spoils everything we've worked toward. So I have to release it at a very specific time. But you'll get stuff before that too. Like in a few other books, after a few more books have been released, you're going to get what I call the Lycan trilogy, which is where you find out about the Great Extermination and all that fun stuff. So I'm giving you stuff to tide you over, but I know the Balance of Power one is what you really want to know, because that's what tells you exactly who all these characters really are. Last question about Carmen in particular. Given the opportunity, do you think that she would try to become wielder of fate for herself? Just to...
Yes.
For whatever reason. Okay. Why? Why and why?
Because as much as she thinks she knows everything, and she truly believes that, she is comfortable in her position.
Okay.
And in her mind, if she were to try to, I don't know, politicize her way into being the next wielder of fate,
yeah,
she would have to relinquish the role of the keeper of knowledge.
Of course.
Because you have to have a keeper of knowledge.
They have to be separate.
It's separation of powers.
Yeah.
And maybe in her heart of hearts, she wants to sit there, I'd love to be both, because then I would be the ultimate.
Yeah.
But she's also, as arrogant as she is,
Take a drink.
Okay, extremely confident. Anyway, she knows that's too much for one angel to have. So she's like...
So that is one thing that she does know, you think?
Yeah, that they have to be two different.
So why do you think she would?
I think she would, because if the wielder of fate could make rules, why wouldn't she just make that rule that she could do both roles?
Because Hope has insinuated that you can go in and change divine rule.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah. So why couldn't she?
Yeah.
And then she would have ultimate power.
Yeah. Because she'd have knowledge and fate.
Yeah.
And then if Theo sticks by her side, she's got life. Yeah. She can do whatever she wants to Patrice.
Yeah. So if she wants to get rid of Patrice, which I feel like she would.
I do too.
If given the opportunity, where there was no repercussions.
Well, she tried to kill her already.
Right.
So.
But where there's no repercussions from it.
Yeah. Because she's the one that would do it. Yeah. So, yeah.
I could see her doing that.
Okay.
Why wouldn't she?
I think it's funny how in the books they talk about, angel repercussion for doing stuff, yet I'm seeing a lot of stuff that, they should have already had something seriously bad happen, and yet somehow they got away scot-free. And is it really that, or is it because the balance of power is shifting?
That's a very good question as well. It is. So we have picked on Carmen a little bit, so we're going to pick on Theo for these next few questions. Exactly. So, because we're going to try to figure him out a little bit.
He's the good old grandpa that sits there.
Oh my gosh, I love that analogy because I can picture him being that way.
Well, the way you describe it, the way he, especially when he talks with Ho, he comes across as the good grandpa that, tries to, heal divisions between families and stuff.
Yeah. So, as far as Theo goes, it's no secret that he and Carmen are very close. To what end? We're not sure. But we know that they are very close because they saw the beginning of time together.
Yeah.
And they are among the very few angels who were created by fate. Not that they were a mortal who died and assumed a role. They were specifically made out of magic, basically. So, my question here is, do you think the feeling that Carmen, whatever that feeling is, do you think that it's mutual? Whatever feeling she has towards Theo, do you think it's mutual? Or could Carmen be harboring a feeling that Theo is just incapable of sharing?
I think it's mutual because even when Carmen goes, off the deep end, or is about to, he can sit there and say anything, just throw some words out, and it always brings her back.
Yeah.
And even when he's having problems, she will stay there by his side, come hell or high water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the castles can all be falling, and she'd be like, well, I'm just going to spread my wings. It may only hold for 5 minutes, but it's going to be 5 minutes more than we had.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that is a romantic love or like a brother-sister love?
That one's hard to say because you could have that either way in a family situation. If something were happening, Gary, you'd do the same thing. Yeah. Exactly. Well, in a romantic relationship, you could do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say.
It's such a blurry line.
It is.
Because
they started before that was even a thing.
Exactly.
I don't know. I feel like it would be
somebody's going to comment and sit there and be like, well, this is actually what it would be.
Yeah.
I feel like their relationship is maybe more like a brother, sister, best friends thing.
Okay.
I don't feel like it's romantic. I think it's more...
Because we don't know what real angelic romance is.
Yes. Right. So, I mean, yeah, she would go to the ends of, no pun intended, earth form.
Yeah.
And I feel like that only really comes with being with somebody for so long. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
and they've witnessed a lot of stuff together.
Yeah, that I feel
I mean, when you're created,
you do that
before time starts.
I feel like you witnessing as much stuff as they witness. I feel like you kind of get that more with like a brother, sister,
or like best friends,
type thing that you do. A romantic relationship.
Like you said, it could be.
They could be best friends and everything, and it turns into that romantic thing. It very easily could be. But
that's the thing.
I see it more
nothing
the other
that
way.
has been revealed so far.
Yeah.
Strikes me as romantic.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's more.
It's more familiar.
Yeah. That's fair, because this is all speculation since we don't know.
I feel like it's more.
Or
that,
you know what? They've been together so long that it may have been romantic at one point, and it just was like, yeah, you know what? We're here. I'll defend you to the end, but yeah.
Yeah, like we're here and I love you, but I don't love you.
Yeah, I don't love you that way anymore.
When you say it twice, it means something else.
It's funny because he speaks to Carmen differently than he speaks to Patrice.
Sure.
Well, that's only because they've been together.
Yeah, it's that dynamic.
It's kind of funny because he almost speaks like a paternal grandfather to Patrice.
Yeah.
And even Hope, for that matter. Versus how he speaks to Samuel and Carmen. And it's really funny, even though he's like, trying to be the go-between, even with Samuel going up against Carmen.
Yeah.
He still speaks the same way to both of them.
And that's funny that you say that because he hasn't even known Samuel as long as he's known Carmen.
But if you read how he speaks to him, he speaks to him almost as the same as they're all equal.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in his mind, they are.
Because they were, for the most part, all created.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he feels like they are on that even.
But when he's speaking to Patrice as it comes across to me as the paternal grandfather type, he's not being condescending in any way. No. He's actually trying to help her gain confidence so that he...
And that might come from where Carmen is constantly bashing her down.
And that's the feeling I get is that he's trying to build up her confidence so she can take on Carmen.
Yeah. I am really excited for book 5, I think it is. I think it's book 5. Because you do, spoiler free, you do see a really beautiful moment between Patrice and Carmen. And I actually wrote it shortly after Dad died, so it holds a little more weight in my heart because of the understanding of death. Because if I'm being honest, the whole reason why I lean on Patrice so much is because Dad was the first death I've ever had to deal with.
Yeah.
And of course that's the one that hits like super hard.
Yeah.
So it really meant something to be able to personify that and put those things into words. So I'm really excited for you to read how that goes down. Theo, still kind of keeping with his theme, he seems to be just, relatively quiet through the first 4 books. The inclination would be that, at least from when I was writing it and whenever I was thinking about these people, the inclination seems to be that the Keeper of Knowledge would be a little more introspective because they've got all this knowledge that they're trying to help wisely impart. But yet Theo is the one that seems that way. So why do you think that is?
I think it's funny that the keeper of knowledge is trying to impart, because there is nothing she's imparting to anybody.
No, she is the like hoarder of knowledge, and she's very loud about it. So that's why I'm saying it seems like such a flip of roles. So why do you think that became that way?
It's really hard to say. I mean, maybe just being stuck in that role, or she may feel like there's no knowledge to impart to anyone, because maybe they haven't had a whole lot of people come into heaven.
Okay.
You know, they had a steady stream when they first started, but, you know, they might have gone through a slow period.
Maybe something happened with the knowledge that she did give somebody and it went awry.
Ooh.
And she's like, nope, fuck this, not saying shit to anybody.
Oh!
Wait, that's an interesting
Actually,
theory.
And to where that really hasn't, like, Theo hasn't experienced that with her life. So that's why he doesn't have that outlook like she does.
So she's been burned before.
She may have imparted knowledge on to an angel that may have eventually became the first wielder of fate, and that's what created
Patrice.
What?
So maybe
Carmen,
Carmen hates herself because, and that's why she's always bashing on Patrice. Because deep down, she blames herself because she imparted the knowledge to.
Very interesting.
I was just thinking maybe she just got burned before.
But wouldn't that be considered the ultimate burn?
Maybe.
That, you know, she has.
You're forced to live with your own mistake every day, and you cannot escape it.
The thing, because if she doesn't share the knowledge like she either used to, or whatnot, maybe she did share it before and it didn't pan out correctly.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how we got Lucien, because she told Lucien something that she shouldn't have, or he used it with.
I still think the reason,
or maybe that is how Patrice came to be.
It'll be interesting how you do the timeline.
I was just thinking
how where death came in, because I have a feeling it has to be somewhere around the time of the split.
Yeah.
And
you're not too far off.
And that death was created as a consequence of actions that were taken during or while the split was occurring.
Right. How do you think Theo feels about Patrice by comparison with how Carmen feels about her?
Yeah, I feel like he's neutral. Like he'll protect Patrice a little bit.
Yeah.
Not like he's gonna protect Carmen, but he'll like, or after Carmen and Patrice have a little spat, he might go, "Hey, you know, she didn't mean it like this," or whatnot. Like he might go and comfort her a little bit more, but he's not going to completely ditch Carmen.
Right.
That's why he tries to be neutral. Like I said, like he'll say whatever I feel like he'll say what needs to be said just to kind of keep all parties somewhat.
I don't even think it's that
living. You know what I mean?
I mean, literally, if you think about it, from Theo's point of view, because, you know, he's keeper of life.
Mm-hmm.
Patrice is a keeper of death. So that's your opposite number.
Yeah.
And instead of, I mean, as you know, Carmen bashes on Patrice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you bastard child, why are you here? Go away. He's looking at it as, well, this is maybe my way I look at it, my opposite number.
Yeah.
So we need to be on the same level. And as much as I will, at the end of the day, I will defend Carmen.
Sure.
But I need you where I am, not where you are right now.
Yeah. We need to elevate you.
Yeah. So I need to build up your confidence. I need to, I need you to see what you really are.
Yeah.
Versus what you're being told by Carmen. You know, the keeper of all things knowledge, and yet she can't see past her own nose.
So, to kind of lend to what we've said about Theo and how he's a supportive figure, he's really kind of just trying to, at this point that we know of, he's trying to encourage everybody, and like he wants Patrice to do her best, and he wants what's right and all of that stuff. So do you think his encouragement, particularly at the end of book 4, will help Hope succeed?
I think it can.
It can.
Do you think she'll actually
it depends on
hear him?
Yeah, it depends on what Hope does. Because, I mean, she could...
So far, I would say she's not really listening.
Yeah, Theo could tell her exactly how to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And she'll go, oh, okay, and then go off and do her own thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that's a lot of work.
Yeah, so, I mean, it just... Even if it's not a lot of work, it's just... Okay, well, that's Theo's opinion.
Yeah, almost like, okay, I don't want to be told what to do.
Right.
Like,
but thanks for telling me.
God, can she be any more of a spoiled brat?
well, power, as we said in the last video, absolute power,
Yes, absolutely.
So, okay, now the last, another question about Theo. Do you think, piggybacking off of how he's kind of helped encourage her and things, do you think Theo even really wants Hope to become the wielder of fate? Or is he just placating her because right now she's their only option, and if nothing else, he is loyal to fate?
Actually, I think he is trying.
Okay.
Because so far the interactions with Hope, he really genuinely wants her to get her shit together and figure it out. Versus somebody that's just kind of saying something, oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
Well, keep at it, you'll crack it eventually.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah. It does, he actually seems like he really, I don't want to say emotionally invested, but he seems like he really wants to see her succeed. Okay. And that may be just a trait of his personality that you could be the most despicable person in the world. He's still going to say something to sit there and, make you the best you can be.
Trying to see the best in people, basically.
Seeing the good in you.
Okay.
I think he's loyal to fate, so he's just going to try to do whatever.
He's going to placate to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's really good then, because it doesn't sound like he's placating anybody.
Well, okay, so since we're kind of thinking that he's, like Tasha's thinking he's more loyal to fate than anything, do you think that Theo would try to become the wielder of fate given the opportunity?
No. No, I think he likes his position too much.
It's not even that. Or he understands his position.
Yeah,
right.
He's happy with what that is.
Okay. So finally, when it comes to the Angels of Wisdom, we're talking about the last one, Patrice. She is, as I said before, she is my favorite Angel of Wisdom, personally, just because she understands that not everybody will love her. Yeah. She understands that even in the face of extreme fear and hate, which is very common in today's world in real life, she still tries to maintain a manner of kindness.
Yeah.
To bring people to an understanding, and that's super rare, I think, in anybody. She also Patrice tries to maintain sort of an open mind to try to figure out why she is feared and hated and all of that, and why everyone else is so beloved around her.
Yeah.
So, the first question on Patrice now is, do you think that her outlook is sustainable given the events that have happened so far in the series?
Yeah, I think so. Because she understands and she knows her place and what her position is.
Yeah.
She can't really change how people feel about.
Right. She can learn and understand it, but she can't
change.
Yeah.
She's dealing with the problem that is a philosophical problem for anybody. Mm-hmm. We as humans now still have a problem dealing with the concept of death.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you got people, well, you're going to go to heaven. Oh, you're going to go to hell. Oh, we're going to get cremated, so you're just going to be part of the ether. Or this, that, and the other. What about your soul and all this? And it's like, basically death is your body stops.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. Now, what actually happens, nobody really knows.
Yeah.
And that scares the hell out of everybody.
Oh, yeah.
But I can also piggyback on that is, you know why certain people may not like you. Mm-hmm. You get it. But it doesn't mean you're rude to them.
Right.
Or anything.
Which, being the keeper of death, I mean,
yeah.
That's carte blanche.
She has every ability and
I mean,
and that's the thing is she doesn't use it for that.
Yeah,
and the thing is that she, as much as she wants to take Carmen's head off.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. She has. If we like looking at this just from the outsider perspective and watching how Carmen treats her. If that was on Earth and those were two people going at it, we'd be like, dude, Patrice, you have every right to deck her in the face. Like, look at what she's done to you. But Patrice chooses not to.
Yeah.
And that's really, like, really admirable for her.
Well, and she knows it, too. She's like, and she's entertained the thought.
Yeah.
Of taking Carmen out.
Yeah.
Even going so far to just to really needle her, sitting in her seat.
Yeah.
And watching the old bat sit there. Like that. And like, what?
Yeah.
And the thing was, and I thought that was great writing on that, was that she did that knowing Carmen was going to come at her, and Carmen stopped herself because she knew the consequences of doing that. And that was like, and the funny part is while all that was going on, Sam's sitting there going, oh boy.
Yeah.
This is going to be good.
And he's like, which way am I going to have to go with this?
Yeah.
Like,
and Theo's like, he already knew.
Yeah.
He watched it all build up, and in his mind, he probably sat there and said, yeah, good for you. Good for you for not doing anything, because that would have ended up badly for you. Mm-hmm. And, all right, I'm going to just sit here and look pretty. In a way.
Yeah.
But, because you explain how they're bonded to their tree.
Yes. Yes.
If their trees have problems, they feel it.
Yes.
Could maybe his attitude be affected by his tree?
Very much so. It is a possibility. If something happens, you know,
Which I've not heard of anything. I mean, at least you haven't, in the books so far, I've not identified anything that can necessarily harm angels.
But it's something to keep in mind.
Well, I'm not thinking, because you explain, because obviously, you know, weapons can't hurt.
Right.
But you haven't even remotely come close to even mentioning anything like a poison.
Yeah. That
could affect either them or their trees.
Well, that...
Which, you're talking about angels, so that has to be some, like, you know, high-level magic to be able to create something like that. And you have to sit there and look at it from, well, your first thought is, hell.
Right.
Who's to say they would do something like that? Because you don't want to release something that could potentially be turned back on yourself.
Well, sure. And it's not like if hell were to do anything, it's not like hell wants to eradicate everything, because that may even eradicate hell. So then what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, they would want it to have total dominion, not to destroy things.
It's all about power.
It is. That's why there's a balance. So, do you think that Patrice will ever just have enough of Carmen's bullshit and just let her have it? Like, do you really think she has that malicious side in her?
Yeah.
If she gets put... Okay, you can only take enough browbeating for so long.
Yeah.
And then finally, it's like, okay, listen here, you bag. I've done this. You've seen what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
You still consider me second class. Okay. Kid gloves are off. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I think if that were to happen, I don't know. I think Carmen would take the bait, but at the same time, I think she'd be shocked. Because in her mind, she feels like that Patrice is second class, and no matter how much I sit there and talk crap about her, she ain't going to do anything.
Yeah.
And when that day comes, and it will come, I mean, it's true in angelic form versus human form.
Yeah.
That if you deal with that for an extended period of time, you're going to hit your wall, and then when you bounce off that wall, whoever's doing the browbeating is gonna really rue the day.
Yeah. Do you think that Patrice's intimate understanding of death has given her a unique insight into what's really going on with fate? Or do you think she's just as blind as everybody else without a wielder?
I think she's just as blind because she's still fully figuring out. She knows she has more power than she's led on.
Right.
But she still, it still comes across as she still hasn't fully figured out what she can do with it and how she can do anything with it.
Okay.
So while at the same time, she's getting this constant barrage. So trying to sort that out while everything else is going on, she's probably not, she may have an inkling.
Yeah.
Especially when new souls came to heaven.
Yeah.
That something was slightly off.
Okay.
And she's aware of it, but she's got all these other things going on, and she's still, again, trying to fully figure out, okay, I know I'm Keeper of Death.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily Grim Reaper, but I could be.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't know what this all encompasses. I mean,
yeah.
Am I supposed to go down to earth and go, touch, 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 and do like a Grim Reaper, or am I here to sit there and judge you as worthy of death?
I think she knows, and she's just not letting on.
Kind of a strategic move.
Yeah, she's death. She knows things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that she.
I mean,
she knows death. Just does that mean she knows? I guess the dark arts of hell as well.
Maybe. Why wouldn't she? If she knows all things encompassing death, like Theo knows all things encompassing life.
Yeah, but what is considered death? I mean, we consider it as our body stopping.
Yeah.
There are many forms of death.
Right.
So
I think she knows.
Okay.
I really do. She just may not let on to believe that she does.
Right.
It's possible.
And part of that may be because of the intimidation of Carmen.
Yeah.
I was going to say...
Because if Carmen knows all things knowledge, then she would know all things death.
Yeah.
Just like she would know all things life.
Well, yet she doesn't know what's going on Earth. She doesn't know what's going on
about death.
Hell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, your knowledge is the only thing that Carmen has is the knowledge that was given to her by fate.
Correct.
That's it.
That much is correct.
So she hasn't even gotten off her... She can't even get off her throne to go down to Earth to just walk around and sit there and say, hey, look, trees. Hey, look, there's a mountain.
And that is partly probably their
Which I got a feeling
because they are just used to fate feeding them everything. And now that there's not one, which has never happened in the history of ever, she's like, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
I love how you put it that way.
Well, that's, when the back of book 4 says this has never happened before.
But there's another aspect of this, and I think it's interesting, is Theo strikes me as the type that actually would go to Earth and walk around.
Maybe Carmen's holding him back.
Or maybe he has, and Carmen just didn't know about it. Because, at some point they do rest.
Yeah.
I.e. sleep.
Yes.
So
when it's finally night after those 3 long Earth days.
And so there might have been a time he might not have been able to sleep, and he's just like, you know what, the hell with it. I'm going to go check it out. And actually walked around and was like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But Carmen, no, that never entered her mind.
So, do you think that there is anything Patrice can do to help encourage or even force Hope's bond with the Hand so that they have a wielder of fate sooner than later? And while we're on the topic, what about the other Angels of Wisdom? Do you think there's anything they can do?
No, because Hope's one track.
So
she's not going to take advice from them.
Right.
When she's going to be ruling over them.
Right.
The only thing Patrice could do to get Hope to sit there and maybe look in the straighten up and fly right.
Yeah.
Is literally threaten to throw her into the hollow.
Probably.
Maybe.
I mean, and she does have
still.
But she's keeper of death, so she has that power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could potentially use that as a way. Okay, princess, enough of this playing around. You need to.
Patrice doesn't have that confidence to do that, though.
That's what I was going to say. Do you really think she would actually do it, though? Knowing she could is different from actually
doing it.
Yeah.
It depends on the situation, too. Right now, things aren't that bad. But say the balance of power really starts to shift, and basically you're starting to see a lot of the heaven realm getting bombarded.
Yeah.
And all you see is a princess up in the tower whining and crying, why ain't this working? Why ain't this working? And finally Patrice is like, I don't care. Carmen, shut up. I'll take care of this. Theo, thanks for the boost. And she goes up there and says, look, you need to figure this out, and you need to figure it out damn quick, because heaven's about to come falling down.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Look, if you don't figure this out within the next 3 days, I'm going to send your ass to the hollow. No questions asked.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, Hope would sit there and stop what she was doing and sit there and start focusing.
Straighten up a little bit. What could Patrice do, if anything, to make Carmen stop treating her like she's worthless? And does it even matter, really, when it comes down to it, that Carmen does treat her that way? When it comes down to brass tacks, yeah, it fucking sucks, but does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
I mean,
she could sit there and show that she is infinitely more powerful than Carmen, and Carmen would still sit there and say, you disgust me. You know?
And do you think it matters to Patrice whether or not Carmen treats her
right now, yes. But I think it's finally coming to a point where she's going to say, you know what, just keep talking your shit. I know the truth.
Yeah.
Hello, old and busted. Meet the new hotness.
Yeah. Question about specifically Patrice, the same one for all the other Angels of Wisdom. Given the opportunity, do you think she would seize the Wielder of Fate throne for herself?
No.
That right there, I think, would be the ultimate power. Death, the Keeper of Death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
on the Wielder of Fate throne.
That would be.
But she's not. You don't think she's that kind of.
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's still separation of power, but also she doesn't seem the type to do that because she's so empathetic.
Yeah.
Versus some of the other angels that, in a quest for power, they would.
I think it's really funny that of all 3 Angels of Wisdom, when I posed that question about the Wielder of Fate throne, Carmen was the only one that you agreed, yeah, she probably would, given the chance. So I think that's really interesting, and it tells a lot about Carmen's personality.
Yeah.
So now, last week, I kind of threw in the Earthly Guardian to be like, hey, this is fucking things up. What do you think? So we're going to do that again now. We're going to bring the earthly guardian back in. Remember, for anybody who didn't happen to watch last week's episode, this is the guardian that was sent to Earth. We don't know. We know it was like 3 or 4 years ago. We don't know why. We don't know who it is. We don't know what their purpose is. We don't know anything. What we do know is the earthly guardian was a former guardian of grace. And that's it. To our knowledge, and this is stated in the books, the only ones who know of the earthly guardian's existence are Carmen, Theo, and Samuel. So, why do you think these 3 very critical and powerful angels allowed a guardian to go to Earth at the risk of the balance of power? Because that was a huge risk. And these are 3 very strong, important angels in heaven that let that happen. Why do we think that is?
Because there was something that was of great concern to Samuel and the angels of wisdom, that they felt that they needed to have a guardian come down. Okay. Instead of staying up in the Crystal Palace, looking down, they needed somebody on the ground.
Okay.
And it may have been more for even though they called him an Earth Guardian, who's to say that like you said in the last video, who were they guarding? I mean, there was other things going on. Maybe they were doing an investigation.
Okay.
You know, that Fate was kind of sending out, since it didn't have a wielder.
Yeah.
It was sitting there sending out little flashes of potential problems.
This was before Hope was, so theoretically speaking, we still had a wielder. Because Hope only just started her process.
I thought that there was a gap between.
There is now.
Okay.
There is now because she created that.
Well, maybe the wielder saw something that was starting to happen and ran it by Samuel.
Yeah.
Samuel agreed, and then Samuel to sit there to figure out who would probably use the angels of wisdom to figure out who's the best guardian.
Yeah. Okay.
Or maybe the reason.
So then why wasn't Patrice involved in that?
That's actually the very next question. Why do you think they chose to exclude Patrice from that discussion? Because he did not ask he did not ask all 3 angels of wisdom. Only Carmen, Theo, and Samuel knew. Whenever it's revealed in book 2, it's a total shock to Patrice.
That is a good question. I know I just had a thought cross my mind that if Hope was a guardian that's getting promoted to a wielder of fate, then it's very possible the previous wielder of fate was also a guardian. And the reason why we only have 6 guardians is that the 7th one was the actual wielder of fate, stepped down and went to Earth.
Okay.
It makes sense why because there's an even number.
Yeah.
And then now we've got an extra.
Yeah.
And not accounted for, and only certain people knew about it. Okay. And maybe the reason why Death wasn't involved was because and her head just blew up.
Oh, okay. What do we got?
So wait a minute. If everybody knows who the wielder of fate is, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, everybody in heaven and hell.
Okay. Knows who the wielder of fate. So
they don't know the name of the wielder of fate. They just know they're the wielder of fate once they're there. And the wielder of fate may have came along. This particular one may have been afterwards.
But they would know who they are and what they look like and everything else.
Maybe the knowledge and life that they're managed to sit there and create a new persona.
But so Patrice would still know who he is, who that person is.
Maybe.
If they were a wielder of fate, and they stepped down as the wielder of fate and went down to the guardian of the earth, everybody would know who that person is. They just may not realize that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Yes.
I'm just saying, going by what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it from the Guardian's standpoint. You have 6 Guardians, somehow you have an extra 7.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unless you're promoting from within, i.e. you're promoting a shepherd.
Which typically is what happens, just as a little Balance of Power trilogy backstory. Typically, only Guardians can be promoted into Wielder of Fate because they have learned so much and earned that right to be a little more powerful than, the shepherd that lives in Utopia and has 8,000 souls to watch over. So they have honed their skills enough that Fate is that's typically how it happens.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's 100% every time.
I mean, the more you think about it, the more this sounds like more of the spy mission than a Guardian mission.
Okay.
Like they were, protecting Earth. It sounds more like they had to sit there and do something pretty drastic and get information. And then the Guardian kind of went radio silent, and so everybody's going, well, what the hell's going on now?
But how long has the Guardian?
About 3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years.
When did the incident take place?
When book 1 starts, 3 years ago.
Huh,
So,
not a coincidence.
Exactly.
So I feel like whatever the incident is, that was the reason why
that Guardian came to Earth.
I'm just putting
a lot of magic was involved. Either way, you look at it.
Yes, that is not wrong. A lot of magic had to be involved to make this happen. Because think about it, even if it was 3 or 4 years ago, and just now in these books, you are just now seeing the Balance of Power tip. So a lot of magic had to have been involved when the Earthly Guardian first went there in order to keep that balance stable until just now. So
like a sort of like a ripple effect from
it could
it literally took that much time from the incident to now in the books for the balance to sit there and finally go, oh yeah, this happened 3 or 4 years ago, but now it's just now affecting me.
Yeah, it could be. So, whose brilliant idea do you think it was to send a Guardian of Grace to Earth for so long in the first place? Because when you look at it from Fate's perspective, Fate doesn't like things to be thrown out of whack. There's 6 Guardians, there's 6 Dark Angels. They've got everything is kind of like matching. There's a castle with a overseeing ruler in it in Ecstasy. There's a castle with an overseeing ruler in Hell down in Nether Peak. So it likes to keep things similar. So the fact that a Guardian goes missing or is sent down there and Fate is like, no, fuck that, we can't have just 5. Let's bring the 6th one, now we have 7, whoops-a-doodle. Whose brilliant idea do you think it was to do that in the first place? To send someone down there and make Fate make these decisions?
I'd have to say Sam.
Okay.
Because where he actually... The Angels of Wisdom are sitting in their throne. Not doing anything, really. Aside from, squawking at each other. Sam, on the other hand, actually has communications with Hell.
He does, yeah.
And even so far as to actually meet with Lucian if the situation necessitates.
Mm-hmm.
So he would actually be able to sit there and look at it and go, how do we do this without really screwing up what we're doing with Hell? As you say, the Balance of Power.
Yeah.
He had to have probably gone down to Hell and talked to the lieutenants.
The powers that be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And said, look, guys, some weird stuff's going on. I want to send a guy down to investigate. and he's obviously going to be one of our guardians because they have the most knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably sit there and said, okay, only for a certain period of time, which was probably a very small window, even more so than probably what you said an angel would have if they went to
3
Earth.
days.
3 days?
Yep.
It would be less than that. So Sam's like, okay, goes back, I guess finds somebody, or maybe he does take the wheeler of fate and says, okay, here, go down. They go down, but instead of coming back within that time frame, they kind of get lost.
Okay.
Because where his or her power waned,
Yeah.
they become just another mortal. And you're going, well, who's the guardian?
Okay.
I think just one person did.
Okay.
I think it was like almost like a group project. Like they were just kind of
Like a collective effort
Yeah.
to fix something, or
yeah.
Which we don't even know we know roughly something happened.
Yeah.
Because something had to start building for them to take notice.
Right. Right. So what do you think Patrice is going to do now that she does know about the earthly guardian? I mean, that was a big slap in the face to her, where
I don't think
everybody's
she's
like,
gonna do anything.
no?
I think she'll just keep the knowledge to herself, and she might use it at a later date. But right now, I think she's just.
I think down the road she's going to confront the other two and say, "Hey, what is this?"
Yeah.
But there's another problem that's starting to show is the fact she knows, and the fact that the keeper of knowledge doesn't even realize she knows,
Yeah.
which is really funny. So yeah, she's gonna sit on it and eventually blow it up in their face. I'm pretty sure Theo knows that she knows.
Yeah.
And he's just not saying anything just because he's like, you know what, great for her.
Okay.
You know, he's got his own issues he's dealing with.
So what can you foresee as the consequences of the earthly guardian, bearing in mind that consequences are not always bad things? It can be things that help you. You just don't realize they're helping you in the moment.
That's hard to say. I mean, if you go by the timeline and the guardian came down around the time of the incident, you got to figure out
What was the incident?
Well, we know the incident to a certain extent.
Right. And we are going to talk about that in the next video.
But the problem is we don't know all the parties involved and how they were involved.
Right.
I mean, obviously we know O'Cordy's involved.
Cordy. That's her new nickname.
You know, she was involved. Half the Jericho group was involved in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
There's several others, and all these people somehow conspired together, found the greatest source of magic known to all existence to pull this thing off.
Yeah.
And cause potentially, mass amnesia.
So, since we're on the subject of consequences, we're going to now shift to the Pied Piper. Because he is, in fact, our bringer of all things consequences. So, Samuel, he actually in heaven plays a dual role. He is both the defender of fate, which means that he is charged to protect fate itself at all costs. Not that he is charged to protect the wielder. You have to note that there's a distinct difference.
Oh, yeah.
So he is made to protect fate itself, but he is also made to enact the consequences of what fate does. So think of him sort of like an extension of fate. He's the part of it that ensures that every action has a reasonable and equivalent reaction. He's like the arm of fate.
Yeah.
You know? So, based on what's happened in the books, do you think just internally Samuel kind of regrets approving for an Earth Guardian?
No.
No?
I don't see that. I don't see that right now.
Okay.
Now, maybe down the line he will, but right now...
Do you think there's something that might catch up with him as a result of this action that he didn't see before?
Maybe.
It could.
Yeah.
I know right now he's so preoccupied with what is going on with the balance of power.
Yeah.
That he knows Earth's involved.
Yeah.
But he's so blinded to what's going on that even when he visits hell, they're going, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, as only one of 2 angels with gray wings, Samuel is not supposed to take sides or play favorites. Even if an angel isn't in heaven, he kind of still seems to have some relationships with some angels. And because remember, Samuel, as we've said, can freely travel between the realms like that. So, do you think that he's doing a good job remaining impartial so far? Or do you think that he kind of harbors a little favoritism toward another angel? Knowing that he can travel and he kind of talks to people.
I don't look at it as where he looks at it as, oh, I can go anywhere I want.
Right.
And stuff. I think it's more he feels confident in cultivating relationships that could potentially stave off wars and other issues.
Yeah.
Between the factions.
Yeah.
So he looks at that as not really playing favorites. He looks at that as a necessity of the job.
Okay. So, going back to the relationship that Samuel and Hope have, that weird mess that they have going on. Early in the first book, Hope blatantly says to Samuel's face, "Listen, bud, nobody wants your job. There have only been 2 Pied Pipers in the history of ever, and everybody wants to be wielder of fate."
Yeah.
So, why do you think this is? Is being the Pied Piper really that shitty of a job that nobody wants it? Like,
I don't think it's a shitty job. I just think it comes...
There's a lot of responsibility with that.
And trying to be neutral.
yeah.
I think it's hard for a lot of people to be neutral. They're either one way or the other. But yeah, I think it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
The way you have to act and behave and the code of conduct that you are
Yeah.
is why.
Yeah.
Opposed to it's just a shitty job.
Yeah. Okay.
And who's to say, yeah, there's been 2 Pied Pipers. Who's to say there hasn't been others that tried to be the Pied Piper
That's
and
valid.
failed miserably to the point that they can't even acknowledge they even were in the role.
Yeah. And since we don't know what happened before Samuel,
Yeah.
you know, it's hard to say. But I
mean,
think
you
that's
really,
a good projection.
You're playing a teacher, an enforcer, because you have to make sure they adhere to the rules.
It's a rough job.
And also, you're a diplomat.
Yeah. Even if you don't want to be. Samuel does not get a lot of communication from Fate. Because, of course, without a wielder, he can't be the complete arm extension that he normally is, because he's kind of blind to it. So, do you think that his relationship with Hope is just one he's frustrated because of her cockiness and know-it-all attitude? Or do you think he's got some genuine fears because they've been without a wielder for so long? You know, it might be something that really worries him.
It's both. he's genuinely frustrated with her attitude.
Yeah.
But he is deathly afraid because the longer it takes her to bond with the hand, the more likely something really terrible is going to happen. And so, as much as he's trying to, if you notice, the first book, he's not really, I mean, he is being the teacher.
Right, right.
If you notice second and third, he is way more hands-off. Now, granted, he's probably distracted by the fact of weird stuff's going on. I need to sit there and focus on that. But the fact that he's like kind of stepped away from the teacher role is forcing, well, one's forcing Hope to sit there and actually do something, because she even mentions her frustration about the fact that Samuel hasn't been around.
Yeah.
Which is almost hilarious considering at the beginning she didn't want him around to begin with.
She wanted to kick his ass out and send him packing. She didn't.
Oh, when I'm the wielder of fate, your job's gone. And it's like, do you understand? I mean, he's the bringer of consequence, so he actually goes down to the planet and actually, you know, wipes out a civilization if he has to. So, come on. You want to get rid of that, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Bane, here's an interesting question. Bane, our dark angel, who we will discuss more in another later episode about hell, he propounds early in The Good Shepherd that everyone has something, a trigger of some kind, that will make them kind of cross or blur their moral boundary. What do you think that trigger is for Samuel, if he has one?
I don't think he has one.
I think he does have one.
Do you think Samuel's just like, I work for fate and this is what it is and it is how it is?
He works for fate, but if fate goes for too long without a wielder, that's his trigger to sit there because he knows everything is falling out of whack.
Okay. So, of course, I have to ask the same question for Samuel. Given the opportunity, do you think he, of all angels, would go for the wielder of fate throne?
Nope.
I don't think so either.
He's too orderly and understands his role way too well for him to sit there and want to take on that kind of power.
And he's been around long enough to see a lot of wielders. So
yes, I don't think he will.
Okay.
Yeah, because if that was the case, fate may have tried to choose him before. When
that's fair.
When fate screwed up and chose a flame out.
Yeah.
It's interesting about how Samuel knows so much about heaven and hell, but his knowledge of earth is very, 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 very limited.
Yeah.
Which, for somebody that, does as much as he does and has the connections he does, to be that blind kind of makes me wonder what his feelings of humans are of mortals, for that matter. What he really feels about them. Because if that was one of the realms that you wanted to make sure was stable, you would have some sort of connection, feelers, agents, whatever you want to call them, on the ground, so that if something goes a little awry, you don't need to send a guardian down. You could just, stop in and go, okay, what's going on down here?
Well, so kind of answering that, part of his just like overlooking of Earth is probably to do with the fact that in his mind, he might deem heaven and hell as more volatile because Earth was a creation of heaven. The whole biblical thing. We get into it more in that trilogy I was talking about. But so he kind of looks at it as, if I can help maintain stability in the realms that created this beast, then this beast will be. controlled.
Well, see, that's why he's having a mental breakdown right now, because he found out the construct is screwing up everything else.
So that is something that's remained to be seen in future books as we get to see his motivations more, because we are just as curious as Bane, and we want to
I like
know.
how Bane's cool about it.
Yeah.
He's like, so what? Big deal if the power goes one way or the other. I mean, eventually it should all even out.
And
then he's like, wait a minute, I need to test this out.
Yeah.
So, holy crap, I can get here.
Yep. So it's a bigger deal than what he thought. So it's starting to be.
But the thing is he's like, okay, I understand that. He's like, okay, now I see why Samuel's freaking out.
Yeah.
But I like the respect that he has.
Yeah.
Which kind of throws you off, because you think a Dark Angel would not have that. Even though, granted, they were all from the same group at one point. It is kind of nice seeing that, they still understand what respect is.
Yeah.
Respect and honor.
And respect for the power that each realm has, because they know. So, well, that concludes our discussion on the Angels of Heaven. It was a very, very good discussion. Got a lot of nice insights into the characters just to help give a better, well-rounded view. So before we go, just another quick reminder that all 4 books are currently available. Order direct from StevieJoAuthor.com. They are cheaper there. You can get my autograph. You can request that to be put in there. And it just helps out indie creators when you cut out the middleman. So order from there. All 4 books are available now. Audiobook. Well, there are links to the digital on there. So at the very bottom, there's a big box that says looking for digital, and it's got links to those, because those are the only things I can't sell.
Yeah.
So, because I don't have all that software and stuff, and I don't want it. I'll let everybody else sell it.
Yeah.
So I do want to let you know that next week we're going to be diving into the Earth realm. I'm so excited, because next week you're going to get to learn the history of Mur County. That's going to be another 2-part episode, because we'll talk about Merlance and then Falshik Mountain separately. So we're going to you'll get a history of both of those, so that when you read, even just reading in the beginning, you'll have a better perspective of how things came to be. It's just a nice little, and what's really fun about it is this is stuff that probably will never be written, because it's just a nice history, so you'll only know it if you've watched these videos. So be sure you subscribe so that you can learn all this insider information. That's what we made this channel for. So be sure you subscribe and keep tabs on us and like this video. While you wait for next week, tell us in the comments who your favorite Angel of Heaven is and why. We know Hope is Tasha's, Patrice is mine. Who's your favorite angel?
Oh, it's Samuel.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I knew that's who you cosplayed as, but I was like, I want to make sure. So the 2, polar opposites there, from duking it out all the time. And also, tell us, if you don't really have a favorite angel, tell us what you think the earthly guardian means for the future of the Angel of Death series. I'm really curious to know. So we will see you next week. Thanks for hanging in there till the end. We love you and appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.
Don't forget to order your copies of the first 4 installments in the Angel of Death series. Paperback, hardcover, and dust jackets are now available with an autograph exclusively at StevieJoAuthor.com.